Hello everyone, you are welcome to this new video in which we are going to learn about the data analysis, the spreadsheet, chapter 20 in ICT. In this video, we are going to learn about the basics and the skills of the spreadsheet so that we'll gain the knowledge that enables you to work with the spreadsheet generally and also in exams in the IGCSE. When we go to the first concept of data analysis and the data model using the spreadsheet, first of all, we need to know what is data model. A spreadsheet data model is used to explore different possible answers, which means that you can create a data model which can be used to explore different results. You can change the data within the model, which can be used in different systems. It's very useful. These models, as just mentioned, are often used in financial system, used in mathematical system, used in scientific systems. So that enables the manager, enables the people within the system to reach to the optimum result, to the required result, to the right decision when they change the data within the model. And it is sometimes called what if modeling. Why is it called like that? Because when you change the data and use different data, okay, as you are asking yourself that, what if I change the data by changing the number, changing the values from this value to this value, to search and to look for an optimum values that you want within your system, whether you are using financial system, mathematical system, or even in scientific. So it lets you change data in the spreadsheet to see what will happen to the result, which enables you to reach to the best decision, the best values that you're looking for. If you're doing business, if you are just doing a mathematical calculation, or you are doing an experiment in science, so you will reach to the best result. The spreadsheet can be used in all these systems. It is useful to know how to build a simple spreadsheet model and edit, change the data within the system, within the model, or even change the entire model so that you can reach and produce a different result to reach to your decision or to reach to the values that you're looking for. Let us just come and learn about the spreadsheet basics so that we will be able to create this data analysis model or a spreadsheet model, whether we are using this in scientific systems, or we're using this in a mathematical system, or use it even in financial system. The first important point about the spreadsheet, okay, is the grid format. The spreadsheet has a grid format, which means that the spreadsheet has columns and rows. When we come to the spreadsheet application, for example, if we use Excel, we'll find this sheet has columns and rows. These columns and rows are creating cells. The intersection of columns and rows creates cells. And this is what we call the grid format. You can take a look into the grid format, and you will find that here that we have columns that identified by letters, and you have rows that are identified by numbers. Each we have row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. We have column A, column B, column C, column D, and the intersection of these columns and rows create this grid format, which thousands of cells are created with the intersection of these columns and rows. And this is the basic concept of the spreadsheet, that creating cells. And we identify these cells by the letter of the column and the number of the row. If you look here, we have column C that intersect with row 6, create a cell here in between that we can identify by C6. We have a single cell active at a time. For example, if we activate this cell in which we can enter data, this cell, okay, we identified with the letter of the column and the number of the row. So we can say that this cell is E9. So this is the very important concept of the spreadsheet, the grid format. And these thousands of cells that created in which you can enter different type of data, and we will learn about that. We can insert more columns, more rows, depends on the requirement of your work. Within the spreadsheet, within this grid format, you can insert columns, you can insert a single column, you can insert multiple columns, you can insert more cells, more rows, even within the model. You can even delete if you're required to delete rows, to delete cells, to delete columns. It is possible. It depends on the requirement. The content of the spreadsheet in a cell, you can enter, as I told you, you can enter a numeric data. You can enter a number. You can enter a text, which call at that time a label. You can enter a formula. You can enter even an image, a diagram. The spreadsheet has the ability to receive different type of data that helps people in these different systems. As I told you, that whether you use financial system, you use a mathematical system, or you use even a scientific system. We can enter formulas. We can insert a formula, but the formula and a function should start with equal sign. Otherwise, it will be considered, if you enter any text, it will be considered as a label and it will not be considered as a formula. We are going to learn what is meant by a formula, what is meant by a function, but generally, the information, the content of the spreadsheet in cells, either it's a number, it's a text, or it's a formula or a function, that must be, or that start with an equal sign. We can go ahead to learn more about this. If I want to create formula using cell reference, as I mentioned, we need to know what is a formula. A formula is the mathematical expression that used to solve a problem. When we have word problem, that you know that we create equation to solve that problems. This equation that you are using, the equation, okay, is a mathematical operation, a mathematical expression, in which you use addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and indices. You use different operators to solve the problem. I think in math, you know that very well, that when you want to solve a word problem, you need to create either a single formula or a single equation or different equations so that it helps you to solve these problems. So a formula is a mathematical expression that used to solve a problem, and always start with equal sign. A formula may contain even a function or multiple functions. What is meant by a function? If a formula is a mathematical expression, which means it's an equation that you built yourself. This is the main thing that about the formula. The formula is built by you. You are the one who just create and built the mathematical expression or the formula using different operators. But for the functions, a function is a predefined, preset formula. So a function is a formula, but this formula is already set it up, it is defined, it's built within the spreadsheet to perform a specific task. And we are going to learn different type of functions. Depends on the task that need to be performed. These two concepts are very important, formulas and functions. A formula, as just mentioned, can contain number of functions or even a single function, and uses the addition, subtraction, multiplication, different operators can be used within a formula. A function is not built by you. A function is predefined. A function is already built within the spreadsheet that perform a specific task. Look here, this is an example given to you, or different examples are given to you, okay, using arithmetic operators. Different arithmetic operators are used to show you what are the symbols and the operators that we use for different operation. For example, the plus sign, we use it for addition. The subtraction sign, we use it for subtraction. The multiplication, the division, the indices. So we have different operators or different sign that we use in a formula. Here we have an example of a formula that add two numbers, subtract B4 from A4. So the reference refers to the value within the cell. If we put values within these two cells, so the two values will be added. If we add two values within these cells, B4 will be subtracted from A4. I mean the value within B4, it will be subtracted from the value within A4. If we use the multiplication sign, so the two values will be multiplied by each other and the result of this will be given. Okay, A4 is divided by B4. So the value within A4, it will be divided by the value within B4 and give you the, and here the value within A4, it will be raised to 2. So here we use the and sign, we use it to raise to the power of. So these are the operators that we use. Different operators can be used, and different arithmetic operators can be used within a formula to perform different. And you can build simple formula or different formulas, or even you can create a complex formula. We are going to learn together, okay, from scratch, one by one, until we reach to the mastering of the spreadsheet. Another important point is the order of the mathematical operations. The order of the mathematical operators is very important. Here, the BIDMAS is the rule that used in the order of the operation. B for the brackets, the parentheses. I for the indices. D for division, M for multiplication, A for addition, and S for subtraction. So, if you have an operation that given to you, for example, what is first to be done is what within the parentheses, what is within the brackets should be done first. Then you can go for the indices. If there is indices that powers, roots, that sometimes you call exponents, you need to do that first. So whatever within the brackets is done, then the indices, third is the division and multiplication, and then addition and subtraction. Otherwise, if you don't have division, multiplication, indices, or you don't have brackets, so simply take the operation from left to right. We are going to learn more about this in our practice. There is a very important concept that also we need to know about the cell references. As we mentioned, we have the cell reference, and the cell referencing refers to the values within the cell, and each cell is identified by the column, letter, and the row number. We have two types of cell reference. We have relative references and we have absolute references. The relative reference is the simple and normal reference like A2, B2, C6. These are relative reference. When you have an operation, when you have a formula, if you copy this formula to somewhere else, to another cell, the formula it copied, if it has relative reference, the reference will change. So keep in mind that relative reference change relatively according to the new position. But the absolute reference are locked and fixed reference. Once you use a dollar sign within the reference will be a fixed reference. It will be a locked reference. It will be an absolute reference. So it will not change. Even if you copy it and replicate it somewhere else, the values within the reference will remain the same. So in your functions, in your formulas, you need to be careful when you are replicating a formula or when you are replicating a function. Because when we use the absolute reference and we replicate a formula, we copy the formula somewhere else, the values within the absolute reference will remain as they are. And the relative reference will change to another reference. So be careful when you replicate. Sometimes you need to use only relative reference to keep the same model that you want. And sometimes you need to use absolute reference and relative reference together to help you to reach to your target. Let us, for example, come here to learn more about the spreadsheet. Here, I'm using Microsoft Excel for a spreadsheet model. And I want to work with you to understand different concepts and work practically on this. We need to know that when we start and set the spreadsheet, it's open. It opens for you like this, in which we have the grid format, the columns and rows, the cells. And this document will be considered as a workbook in which you can have different pages. By default, we have a single page, which we call a sheet. You can see here, take a look down here, we have sheet 1. By default, we have a single sheet. You can add more pages, you can add more sheets by clicking on the plus sign. So the plus sign here will add for you new pages, new sheets, according to the requirement. So if you want in your workbook more pages, you can add them here. And we discussed already the point and the concept of the grid format, the columns, the rows, and the cells. And that we have only one active cell at a time in which we can enter data, whether you want to enter numeric data or you want to enter for a formula or a function, or even if you want to enter a text as a label. You will be able even to insert pictures within cells. This will be, okay, learn, and we'll do it practically, okay, later on. So the cell references, as we said, if I select a cell, this cell is considered to be C3. Let me just enter a value within this cell and another value in D3. Let me just enter randomly any number. If I select E3 to be the active cell this time. If you want to write a function, we need to start with equal sign. You can write or select the cell to write the reference. If I use a plus sign and selected the other cell, okay, here I'm adding the value within C3 to the value within D3. If I press enter, I get the result. If I change any of these values, okay, for example, instead of 7, I insert 12 and press enter. The result here will change automatically. This is what we call automatic recalculation. It's one of the features of the spreadsheet. And also, you can change the formula or you can change the values. This according to the requirement. As I told that, we use the minus for subtraction. When you press enter, you get the result of the subtraction. We can even use the multiplication symbol, which will multiply the two values. We can use a division to, we use a forward slash to give you the result of the division. We can use the power symbol to raise 12 to the power of 4. Give you the result of this. So these are simple formulas that we use, and you can build a complicated formula as I told you that, using brackets, using indices, use addition, subtraction, and division. All the mathematical operators you can use, all the arithmetic operators you can use within your formula. So a formula is built by you. You are the one who built the formula, the equation to solve your problem. It depends on the word problem that you have, so that you can build your own formula to solve the problem. That depends on the relation between the values within your problem. Let me delete, I highlight all this and just use delete from the keyboard. It will delete for you all the values. Here we have another concept that if I want to enter, as I told you that you can enter text, which will be considered as a label. You can enter numeric data, depends on the values that you want to enter. You can even enter data series, which is very important concept that used to minimize the time you are using to enter data or for data entry. For example, if I want to enter a series of a sequence like this, when you highlight these two values that I enter 1 and 2, if I want to go by one increment, so it will increment for me these values. So when I just drag down, you know what I did? I hold on the bottom right corner and drag it down. It will fill for me the cells like this because I have a sequence of a difference of 1. Let me just use a difference of 2. Highlight 2 values, hold on the bottom right corner and drag down up to the cell in which I want to fill the data. So you can see that there is a difference of 3. You can just use this to fill a series of data. Even if you want to enter months, years, days, it's up to you. A full name or a short name. Let me just show you. If I just put Monday, I can put here Tuesday, but even you can hold on the corner and drag down. You see, it will automatically fill this. This is what you call entering data series. So it will be entered in this way. Let me just, for example, write January. Okay. So when I hold on the bottom right corner and drag, it will fill more for me the months automatically. This will, okay, shorten the time to enter data in the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is a smart sheet. When you enter data like this in a sequence, okay, or in a series, you don't need to enter that manually. You can use the features of the spreadsheet to enter data in this way. It helps a lot, okay, to minimize time of data entry. So the cell reference is the reference of a cell which refers to the value within the cell. As we learn that I have B3 here, I have C3 here, I have C6 here, I have, okay, randomly, I can say that I have E8 here, okay? These are single cells. If I have a range of cells, cells within a range, also they have references. So a range reference is taken by the first cell and the last cell, written by the first cell and the last cell. So we can write it B3 to E3. The highlighted range of cells, I can enter values within these cells. Let me just enter different values within these cells. I'll use a sum function. A sum function is used to add values within a range. When I highlight this range, look for the reference. How is it written? I'll close the bracket. So here we have a range. This we call it B3 to E3 to refer to the values within the range. B3 to. We use a colon to refer to the direction 2 from B3 to E3. Also, we can have this range, so We press enter to get the result. We can have these values also vertically. Here we have a range from B3 to B5. I can write an average function here. The average function that used, okay, it will calculate for me the average, the middle value between these three values. When I highlight the range is referring to the values within the cells from B3 to B5. Close the bracket and press enter to get the result. So this is a concept of the cell reference and the range references. About the array is a group of columns and rows that make a table. It's also considered to be as a range. This range, okay, we can read it like this. C4 to E8, the first cell and the last cell. Let me just write different values within a small array. Look here. I have values within this array or this range. The range reference is identified by the first cell in the, which is B3 to D5. Let me just count. I'll count the number. I use a count function to count the number of cells within this range. The range is from B3 to D3. When I press enter, I get the number of cells within the range. And I can even use it for getting the total of the values. I can use a sum function. I can use it for getting the average, and so on. We are going to learn about different functions. As I told you that a function is a predefined formula. It's ready-made. It's built in the spreadsheet to perform a specific task. And we will learn about all these, okay, in our videos. That we write average. You can even select it from the list, double click it, press enter, you get the result of this. So this is about the concept of different references, whether the reference is for a cell, a single cell, or for a group of cells, vertically or horizontally, and for an array that considered to be as a table. It's also considered to be as a range. And also we learned about the relative reference and the absolute reference. Let me just delete all these values here. And I will show you that. For example, if I have 12 here, okay, and I have, okay, 6 here. Let me just fill it with a difference of 6. I can fill it upwards as well. Okay, let me add random numbers here also. If I just add this value to this value, if I press enter, I get the result of the addition of these two numbers, which these two numbers are in B2 and C2. If I replicate this down, I get the addition of these two and the addition of these two. Why? Because the reference here are relative reference. When we copy and replicate a relative reference, we get different references. As I told you that the relative reference changed. So instead of B2 and C2, it will turn into B3, C3. The same will be here, that we have B4 and C4. So it's a relative reference. Because we want the values to change, so we keep the Ferris formula to have a relative reference. Imagine that if this reference, I set it to be an absolute reference by pressing F4 from the keyboard. Press F4 from the keyboard. It depends on your keyboard. Is it a keyboard of a laptop or a keyboard, a normal keyboard, a traditional keyboard? If a traditional keyboard, just press F4 from the functions. If it's a laptop keyboard, some of the laptop keyboards, you can press on F4 or you can just press on a combination of function key from the keyboard along with B4, F4, sorry. So here in this case, I add B2 to C2, or when we replicate this, you will find a different result. Why different result? The copying here, it will change the B2 to B3, but it will not change C2 to C3 because we use an absolute reference, which means a fixed reference. It's a lock reference. Keep the same value. Even if we go down, we find the same. That C2 is fixed. It's locked. We use absolute reference. So it doesn't change. We'll stop here and see you in another new video very soon.